I've got to be quiet because Randy's still sleeping. I wanted to make some bread, and I'm getting ready to proof my yeast. That's 1/4 of a cup of vegetable oil going into 2 cups of warm water, no more than 110 degrees. And then I'm going to add 1/3 of a cup of granulated sugar, and you want about 1.5 packets of yeast. I will put that recipe in the description box. And then you want to stir that up and make sure that sugar is good and dissolved. Not only does it help the yeast activate, but it helps the bread. Now when you buy yeast, you always want to make sure that the expiration date is right. If you keep it in the freezer, it will last a lot longer. So I'm going to stir that up and make sure that's good and incorporated. But yes, yeast doesn't take that long, especially the rapid rise. It doesn't take that long to proof. But you don't want to add salt directly to yeast because it will kill it. And like I said, the sugar does help the yeast start feeding, but it also does a lot for the actual bread itself. I have a video talking about that on one of my bread videos. I'm going to set that aside. Then I've got 6 cups of all-purpose unbleached flour. You can use any kind of all-purpose flour. You can use bread flour. I wouldn't suggest using self-rising flour though. And that's a good flour right there. I use their self-rising flour and I love it. That's what I make my biscuits with, the self-rising. But you want to stir it up real good, kind of break the flour up. You want to add your salt to your flour. And that is 1.5 teaspoons to 2 teaspoons of salt. If you forget your salt, your bread is not going to have much flavor. So I am stirring the salt in, mixing it really well. Get it good and mixed throughout the flour. I'm going to be making a cranberry bread and a cinnamon brown sugar bread today. Now I want to make a little well. You can do this in the mixer if you would like, and if you do, let it mix about 10 minutes on medium. And when it comes from, when it pulls away from the bowl, then it's ready. If it's smooth and stretchy like, it's ready. Now I have said this before, it depends on the humidity. You may have to add more water. That's 2 cups, but I will have to add just a couple of extra teaspoons of water here in a minute. Now we're going to be using the stretch and fold method, you have to dip your fingers in water each time, and we have to do it 4 times every 30 to 45 minutes. And that helps keep the bread, it adds moisture to the bread. I wanted to say thank y'all so much for watching my videos. And if you would hit that like button, that helps out a lot. So see, I had to add just a little bit of water. You want to add it you want to add just very little at a time, because you don't want to have to add more flour. And I'm going to stir that up until it comes away from the bowl. It's just about ready. And then I'm going to knead that dough 1 time for about 10 minutes. And then after that, I don't knead it anymore. I just do the stretch and fold. I enjoy making bread. I think it's very therapeutic. And if you've never made it, you need to give it a try because it's very easy. With Thanksgiving just around the corner, this would be a great bread. If you didn't want to add any cranberries, you could add raisins. You could add anything you wanted. Olives, but any kind of spices. Or if you just wanted to make regular rolls, you could do that with this dough. It's just a blank canvas for anything you want to put in it, even if you just want it plain. It's delicious. And I'm going to be using very little flour. You don't want to use a whole lot of flour because it can make your bread or your dough dry, and then your bread will come out dry. So I'm over there scraping the rest of the dough out of the bowl. It was very warm today here in North Carolina. Now the reason we knead is to form the gluten, and that's what also forms the texture. And you also are redistributing the yeast. Like when we do the stretch and fold, we're also moving the yeast around so it can have something else to munch on. My left wrist was getting sore. It's been sore for a few days. I had surgery on both of those, and sometimes it bothers me, the left one. I'm ambidextrous, so I use my left hand actually. I write mostly with my right hand, but I do mostly everything else with my left hand, believe it or not. So I'm just going to knead it a few more minutes on video, and then I will come back. See, I'm using very, very little flour. And like I said, I enjoy it so much. It's relaxing. If I got something on my mind or anything like that, I just make bread. I bake. And see how it'll get stretchy, and see that? It's kind of like Play-Doh. Silly putty like. So you want to make a ball, and I'm dragging it down at the bottom, trying to get it smooth. And you want to put it in a clean bowl with a little bit of oil, vegetable oil, to keep it from sticking. Give it a couple of pats, love pats. Beautiful dough. And I put just a little too much oil in that. I'm gonna have to get a paper towel and get some out. You want to cover that up with a clean dish towel. And I put mine in my oven with the light on. And I did, when I put that dough in that bowl, I had rinsed it out with really hot water after I washed it. And it's good to put your dough in a real warm bowl. That does help. Now, this is the mixture for one of the loaves. It's about a cup of brown sugar, I suppose, and about 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. Yep, I said brown sugar. And a little pinch of salt. And I'm just going to set that aside. Then I have a cup of cranberries that I put water in to let them hydrate. And of course we're going to drain that and put those cranberries in a paper towel to get any excess water out of them. You don't want them watery when you put it on your dough to bake your bread. And I did add about it was a teaspoon of sugar for a little sweetness, so they wouldn't be so tart. But you don't have to do that. You could add some honey if you wanted to. And in the original recipe, you could really use honey instead of granulated sugar when you're making your dough. So there, I'm putting it in my oven with the light on, and I leave my door cracked a little bit. So this is our first fold. It's been about 45 minutes. It doesn't take long to rise. Dip your fingers in that warm water, but you want to punch your dough too. You really want to do that first. Get the air out. And then you want to dip your fingers in that water, pull or stretch and fold. And that's forming the texture of the bread. Now, by no means am I a professional bread maker. I still have a lot to learn. But practice is the best way. And then you want to cover this after you do that all the way around. And do it again in 30 to 45 minutes. You want to do it 4 times. We're going to flip it over. Make sure you have some oil on it so it won't dry out. I'm going to put that clean towel on it, put it back in the oven. Now I have 2 of my old loaf pans here that I'm going to grease with some butter. And I grease the top of the pan also, so the dough, when it bakes, it won't stick. And these old loaf pans, they've been some good ones. I've made many a banana nut bread in those pans too. Now I will be talking here in just a few minutes. Randy does get up. I was just trying not to wake him up because it's pretty early. It's like 7 o'clock in the morning. And I wanted to get a start on my bread. He loves this bread. I want to make sure you get every corner of those pans. And I like using butter because of the flavor. You don't have to. You could use any kind of non-stick spray. I've also used that before. I'm just making sure. You don't want to go through all that hard work of making your dough and then it stick to your pan. There we go. It's good to go. Now I'm going to be making some bacon, lettuce, and tomato bruschetta for breakfast. Because this bread is stale. I should have already used it, but I hadn't. And you know what happened? Goodness gracious. I got 2 or 3 things going on in the kitchen, and I burnt the bread. I did. Burnt them to a crisp. And I normally don't burn the bread, but I did. So I had to redo it. Now this is the bread that I burnt right here. Now I only use butter. I don't use margarine. You can use margarine if you choose. Or olive oil, whatever you like. It's just a real simple recipe. I just wanted to utilize this bread. And I put it in the oven on 350. Now, if you have problems with your bacon coming apart, pulling it apart, you can roll it up like that, and it makes it a lot easier. And I'm going to cut this bacon in half, and then I'm going to cut it into little pieces, and I'm going to fry it. And I always put it in a Ziploc, try to get all the air out to keep it fresh. I'm going to put it in my little skillet here. I like my bacon like this. And I washed my board thoroughly with warm soapy water because I'm getting ready to dice up some of these dry tomatoes. They were so dry. I even salted them and they were still kind of dry. I usually use the little grape tomatoes, but I had to use what I had. And I do not use a serrated knife when I cut my tomatoes. I use a very sharp knife. I just think a serrated knife makes a mess. That's just happened to me. That's my experience. But it's a much cleaner cut than a serrated, I think. Now I'm gonna cut up some lettuce in little strips. There we go. Now I'm going to mix up some mayonnaise, a couple of tablespoons, and about a tablespoon of sour cream, or a couple of teaspoons, and some salt and pepper, and that's going to be the base for my bruschetta. Bruschetta. A lot of people call it bruschetta, but it's bruschetta. Mix that up. This is simple, but it is so good. Especially if you just want to use up some bread. And he thought it was well, he calls it a crostini. I guess you could call it that. But there are differences. I guess this would be a crostini because it's thin, and usually bruschetta you rub it with garlic, but whatever it is, it's delicious. And then I put my lettuce, and then my bacon, and then my tomato. This is my second batch of bread. And I'm adding my tomatoes. And after I tasted, I realized I needed more salt. Hey y'all, I've been quiet. He's been asleep. So, he's awake. Bacon, lettuce, tomato, bruschetta. Bruschetta. Need some salt. I salted the tomatoes, but not enough. So good. Those tomatoes, they weren't that juicy. That's why I put some salt on them to begin with. But I put this simple recipe in the description box. You know, when y'all saw me buttering my baguettes, I burnt the first ones. I burn them. So I had to make some more. All right, I'll see y'all later. I'm making bread. Okay, this is my second stretch and fold. And knock the air out. Morning, everybody. Now I can talk. I was trying to be respectful because he hadn't got up yet. But I have these cranberries that I had been soaking in water with a little bit of sugar. And they've been soaking for a while. So I'm going to make 2 different kinds of bread. And we got one more stretch and fold. And we'll get to it. Hey, so these cranberries, I plumped them up with some water, and I took a paper towel and got all the liquid I could out of it. Okay, let me slide my mat up some here. Okay, it's been 4 risings. I did the stretch and fold. See that texture? Okay, here we go. This is gonna make 2 loaves. So we're going to put that in the bowl. And when it's rested enough and when it's ready, it's very pliable. You know it's ready. Do, 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 do. Alrighty. Alright, I have some butter. Melted butter here. Now, I could add some raisins, but I really don't want any raisins to my first loaf. If you want raisins, you can absolutely put raisins in it. And this is just some brown sugar. It's about a cup, maybe a little over a cup. And a couple of tablespoons, yes, I said a couple of tablespoons of cinnamon. And I'm not making cinnamon rolls. I'm making a sweet bread. If you don't want the sugar, you can just put cinnamon and granulated, and a little bit of granulated sugar. And I should have turned that around. Daggone it. Oh well. I'll just have to roll it this way. Roll it tight. Like I said, you can do it like you fold a letter also. Last time I said envelope, but I meant letter. You want to kind of pull it, stretch it, and roll it so you can get all the air out of it. And there we go. Pinch that. buttered. We're going to go crossways this time. Just a little bit. And we're going to cover that up with some parchment paper and let it rise. Okay, let me wipe this off. This is clean washcloth here, dishcloth, whatever you want to call it. Just trying to get all that sugar off of it. Okay. You see, I'm not really having to use any flour because the bread, the dough is it's just ready. And plus, I've got the vegetable oil that was in the bowl. Now, I was going to put some nuts in with this bread, but I'm trying to not eat nuts right now because of my stomach. So, not a lot anyway. Now I'm going to add just a tad of butter, not a lot. Just for some extra something. And I'm not going to add a lot of this, but I'm going to add some. And if you don't like cranberries, you can use raisins. You want to make sure they're dried really good. They don't have a lot of liquid on them. I would be able to, I would love to be able to put some nuts in this. But I know Randy wouldn't want it either. And you can add more, but the more ingredients, like fruit, things like that, that you put into your bread. It can inhibit rising. It probably won't rise as high as it normally would because it takes up room for, you know, expansion. All right, now we're going to roll this up tightly. Maybe the next loaf I make, I will do the envelope. Not the envelope, daggone it, the letter. Alrighty. Okay. I don't want to split it too much. All right, we're going to cover these up. Let them double, triple. The longer you let it sit, the higher it'll rise. The more flavor it will develop. It's true. And I'm going to clean up these dishes. And I'll see y'all in a bit. Hey. So guess what? Getting ready to stick it in the oven. It would rise even more, but I want to go ahead and bake it. 350 for about 30 minutes. Throw a few ice cubes down in the bottom for moisture. They're out of the oven. Aren't they beautiful? They're a little wonky in the middle, but still beautiful. And I've got some butter I'm gonna put on it. It's done got hard, the butter. Do 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 do. It looks good. Do 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 do. It looks yummy. drop everything. Okay, now we want to take it out of the pan so it won't sweat, if I can get it out. A little bit of brown sugar was in the bottom of that one. And no, it doesn't have to be perfect. Like I said, it's a little wonky in the middle, but that's okay. That one might need to go back in the oven for a few minutes. I think it might. Let me see. Yeah, I think this one's got to go back in the oven. Let's put this one back. Just for a few minutes. All right, let's see if this one's done. Should be. Let's see. Oh yeah, it's done. Look at that. Ha-ha! Yummy, yummy, daggone yummy, y'all. That's the cranberry. Yep, the cranberry. And like I said, you need to let it cool, really, before you cut it. But I don't have that much time. Wow! It ought to be a sin for something to taste that good. Some honey butter would be good on that. I think I'll make some. Ha! Y'all, make some bread. Thanksgiving's coming up. Christmas. You can put nuts in this bread. Make this cranberry bread. It's delicious. Right on. Here, Randy. Say hey, everybody.
Hey, everybody.
Come and taste this. Is it good?
Yeah, it's good.
It's right delicious. Huh. Yeah. Woo. It's so good. All right. The other will be ready in a minute. Now, the brown sugar has kind of seeped down to the bottom, but I don't care. That's fine. It's draining out of the bread. Next time I will not put so much brown sugar in it. But that's all right. All right, y'all. I'm gonna taste this when it cools. I think I eat too much cranberry bread. But it's beautiful and easy. I hope y'all make some bread. Even if it turns out a little wonky, it's still delicious. See y'all later on A Taste of Country.